Well, to another Dead by Daylight review. I just gotten off VR chat playing games and things like that. I played about two, 2 hours worth, and then spent an hour not doing shit, just trying to get used to VR and all of that. Movement sickness and all of that's gotten a lot better if you play simpler games. Gets real bad though if you play like a fast moving game. I shouldn't be too terribly perturbed by Skyrim VR though, so I should be fine there. I have two issues when it comes to Skyrim VR besides, the sickness and nausea. One, I don't think my graphics card can both stream and put a clear picture up on the computer screen like for you guys and give me a clear picture at the same time, which is fine. I can deal with the glitchiness is all that because the streams come out picture perfect for the most part. And I have RAM to boot, to cover everything. um, I guess it's not even my PC's fault. Let me back it up. It's not my PC's fault that it can't do that. The cord that I got, the extra long cord that comes, well, what was paired with Amazon with the Oculus, is not like an official cord. It doesn't snap in like all the other Quest cords. It just plugs in and it sits there. And when it sits there and I start moving, it starts wiggling and it disconnects and reconnects and disconnects and reconnects and disconnects and reconnects as I move around because it doesn't sit snugly in there like it's supposed to. So as that particular wire is in there moving around and doing all of its bullshit, I'm getting the distortions and all of that where it's connecting to Steam and then it's losing connection to Steam. And then it's connecting to Steam and then losing connection to Steam. On and off and on and off and on and off. It's also the reason why when I was playing Rocket League a couple of streams ago, that while I was just sitting there saying, why does my computer keep disconnecting? Or I was complaining about all the other things that were going on. But yeah, that was a thing. It happened. It is what it is. I'm not gonna refund the cable or anything like that because I mean it works fine until, super fast movements and things like that happen. So I mean it still works good as a charger cable, and if I decide to hook it to my PC, it still works fine. I just can't do, extraneous movements of left, right, and super things like that. I cannot use Airlink because Wi-Fi isn't strong enough to stream. Well, the first setup I had where I was stream sharing it via Airlink and then sending it through. It shows the glitchiness and all of that in the stream instead of just showing it to me. It shows it both ways. So Wi-Fi is a no-go. So if I do continue to Skyrim VR, just keep in mind that one, this series isn't gonna be like too terribly long. I might get on, do like a quest, and then get back off. It's not gonna be extremely long, like the first time. I half remembered what I was supposed to do when I end up most of the time just walking around looking at the different scenes and all of that. I know that shit is boring to most people and they don't particularly care. However, however, it's a new experience for me and I kind of enjoy walking around, doing things. Once I get actually like used to the VR and I set up an area to where I can swing freely and all of that, I'll take it off of baby mode and go up to adept. But for now, novice feels good. I feel like an empowered dragonborn that soars above the rest. And I'm not getting clapped every 2 seconds. So, so far, so good. But like I said, I kind of want to get through Skyrim and go back to Enderall, to where combat is significantly harder. So, that's what I'm looking towards right now. Now, let's see what we got cooking up here. Dead by Daylight. I do not speak French, so la cité or la site de la pure. Is Imele le Tour? I have no idea. Fear City. Oh, it's Fear. 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 Like Fear. Fear. So la city de la pure. Gotcha. Anyway, um, les communistes. How about we not go into communist rebels and things like that at this particular moment with things that are going on in the world? Ah, but no. No on that one, Chief. A hard felt no. Let's see. Moried. Oh, the little picture series. They're on a date. Sadako appears, gives the spirit a heart attack. Rip. Killer concept, the Candyman. That's a concept that has been brought back, yes? Is this completely different? No, this is still the same Candyman killer that somebody else has tried to bring back and change. I don't recognize this name. Well, I mean, the easiest way is just to click. We can go here and then we can click on discussions. No, this is their only killer concept. So this is literally a concept that somebody else has already done, and he's going back in and doing the same things again. So I will not do this because one has already been done in the past. It's sort of like the spring trap clause that everybody's using the same things over and over. Let's see. FNAF. Exactly. How did I know it's gonna be a FNAF one? Oh my. I'm not gonna do any more of those for the time being, maybe every once in a while. Survivor Main's dream. Want to be able to run the killer forever and never get caught or never get punished for anything. Our fraudulent camaraderie. Although you may. Okay, that's just a thing. During the start of the trial, begin with your ever resourceful survivor instinct. And survivor instinct is way too goddamn long to be part of a perk. Keep in mind, as I said on previous reviews and all of that, put whatever, the beginning, what explains this particular survivor instinct special ability first. Separate it. And then underneath it, put all the jargon and all the other extra exploit. Why exploit? Why not explanation? Why is it always an exploited? Why are we trying to exploit people instead of explain people to them? And I do that every time. I'm trying to say explain something to me. The word exploit always comes out. But all of the extra jargon. So you have your main, what the power does. Then you would separate it and you would put any secondary things that are need to know but not necessarily need to be listed with the primary power. And then at the bottom, you would have all of like the super extra PS stuff. And if you separate it and categorize it properly, anybody that's going through this will get the gist of understanding from the first paragraph. Then, if they need any supporting details, they can read the second one to get almost the complete story. And then, if they have any further questions, they can read the third part of that. When you want to list something like this, because again, this is just a wall of text that looking at this gives your reader no stopping point. You got to keep in mind that people aren't hugely avid readers like they were, in the past. Somebody sees something like this and they're either going to skim through or they're going to read the first little couple sentences and they're going to dip out. So you have to be able to accommodate your audience. If you give people pauses, indentions, and new paragraphs and things like that, after this, the next sentence, enter down, and, give breaks by separating sentences and things like that. You can have somebody read a small portion and then they have a break to think about it, talk about it, or they can move on. Go to the next set of places, read a little bit, and then there's a break. Go to the next, and then read it and a break. How this is formulated now, it's just kind of from start to finish. You read this whole thing, and then you get the break to think about it. So it's I version, this vision candy. I understand this is a special ability in all of this, but I guarantee you could probably split this in half, or at least bare minimum take a third of this off, and it wouldn't even change anything. But let's put our money where our mouth is, and let's start a reading. Special ability, Survivor Instinct. Is this for a killer or a survivor? Survivor Main's Dream. It says killer power, but its name is the survivor. So the survivor is the name of the killer, and the killer power is fraudulent camaraderie. This must be some sort of like mimic style of killer where you start out as playing as a survivor and then you're able to pressure or something like that. I think this is where we're going to, is it's a mimic killer. I would appreciate you separating and explaining everything that's going on before we get into any type of power or anything like that. I mean, I understand this. You may seem like a team player, but your attention's well hidden behind a mask of fear. Your statue is enough to fool even the most alert survivors and all of that. However, I would appreciate more clear understanding because you can't name your killer the survivor because survivor or the survivors or the survivor, if you're referring to them, and keywords and all of that are for the survivors. I can't even say the good guys, they're just the survivors. The ones that are going through the trial. So you should definitely name your particular killer and also have killer and then name as, such, stating that the killer's name is the survivor or whatever the hell else it is. It's like the third phone call I've gotten. Jesus Christ. So you're missing supporting information. I know this isn't meant to be an entire creation, but you do still need to do the basics. Even if you're going to implement just in the special ability, you need to implement it correctly. So I'm changing the name temporary to the mimic or something similar to survivor that isn't the same word as survivor, just to separate that. But just to make it easier on everything else, it's going to be the mimic, and the killer is fraudulent camaraderie. Special ability, survivor instinct, even though this has no power, because the power is fraudulent camaraderie. If your power stays active the entire time, it doesn't make it a power. This would be your passive. This is a passive power. People love to use the word special ability a lot. But I mean, this would probably end up being your secondary ability. Because I'd assume this is activatable. It says, well, that's not true. It says begin with your ever resourceful survivor instinct. It never says that it's triggered. But since it's a special ability, I'm going to assume that it's triggered. Because it goes with the special ability term. It has to be, generally, special abilities have to be triggerable in some shape, form, or way. So this would be your either active ability or secondary ability. This would be just a passive or a special ability if you want to say that. Special's the same way of saying passive ability. Or now it's not the same. It's a synonym. They can be used hand in hand, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily 100% the same. It does work as a substitute. And if we go with that, this is just a passive or a special ability. Because Dead by Daylight don't use the word passive, they just use the word special. This is a special ability, and this would be your secondary ability. Then this killer has no power. Or we can assume that this is a power, and this would be your special ability. Either or. How it sits now, it's not, the words ain't lining up with, each other. Terminology. Anyway, it says remove your tear radius at the expense of capping your movement speed at 100%. Why? I mean, I can play Ghostface and I can remove my tear radius and still stay at 4.6 meters per second. Also, if a survivor gets hit with a tear radius and then the tear radius disappears, and then 5 or 6 seconds later, a survivor comes running around the corner, they're going to be looking at you like you're absolutely stupid. You're going to be looking at you like, come on, bro. We know when your tear radius disappeared, it means you're either chasing somebody that's left to another area, or you're a stealth killer. You have a time limit, or you're AFK, I suppose, but you have a time limit as a stealth killer before survivors get suspicious. Despite, popular memes and things like that and strategies and all of that, at the beginning of the game, you have a time limit before survivors say, it's probably a stealth killer. I think I need to be more on the alert. And they start getting suspicious. So you're either going to have to immediately shift into this form and start walking out like regular survivors, which is a reduction in your speed at the beginning of the game, or you're going to have to get close and find a way to mask that you're a stealth killer, aka a mimic walking up on somebody. Then after it happens one time, for the most part, the jig is up. It's very quickly, even if there's not a survive with friends or anything like that, it's very easily to identify what kind of killer that you're going up against. There's a lot of contextual sound clues, things like that. So you're probably gonna end up having three kinds of primary builds that players use. A in-game like stealth build where you're like undercover, sabotaging survivors and things like that, trying to specifically either get all the survivors together for like a super no-ad play or some sort of way to clap a survivor. Now, playing it like that, clapping a survivor somewhere and essentially hiding them from the rest, you're going to need some sort of power or perk that enables you to down a survivor without the other survivors figuring out that they are downed. Their portrait does not change. That's going to need an activation and a whole bunch of other things associated with it. So I would recommend that just be a power of the killer, which you're missing, by the way. Anybody hit with your power, their portrait doesn't, display that they've been injured or display that they've been downed. So you could potentially down a survivor and get, I don't know, time based off of it, have, regular. It doesn't display that survivor being down or injured for like 20 seconds or 30 seconds or something like that after it's happened. Then have an iridescent, since that's the top add-on that you can have that makes it to where it never shows or it takes, 45. Well, it takes bleed out timer is twice. So around about 2 minutes. So like a minute and a half or something like that before they're displayed. So they can still be saved, but something like that. Or just make it to where, they just can't be seen at all. But then you would have to counteract that with a huge negative, like the killer's unable to pick up survivors or something stupid like that. But I don't know. No matter how many times you get sacrificed, Rockabilly will never die. That's kind of funny. But like I said, as I always say, I'm just spitballing at this moment. Definitely everything's gonna need a lot more insight, a lot more thought, a lot more polish, and everything else to really bring that together. See. So you're getting rid of your tear radius at the expense of capping your movement speed at 4 meters per second, which is the exact same speed as another survivor. This can be activated or deactivated following a cooldown of 10 seconds after toggling your ability. So you can after you use that particular move, you cannot activate it or deactivate, or well, I guess you wouldn't activate it again, but you can't deactivate that move till 10 seconds. Okay. When revealing your true motives, takes 3 seconds to lose your humanity. Now, question. It takes 3 seconds to lose your humanity. How long does it take to gain your humanity? Is that also 3 seconds? Is it a 3 seconds transformation? Or is it balanced like Dead by Daylight devs would do and make it a 1.5 second transformation and make it a 3 second lose your humanity and default back or convert back? Who knows? Whilst disguised, gain the ability to vault over pallets and windows exactly as a survivor would. Um, I mean, just from there to there, why not just play Legion? Legion can remove tear radius by engulfing the entire map in tear radius when using Feral Frenzy with his iridescent. It gets more movement speed. Can also vault and break pallets using the iridescent button. And can vault pallets, can vault windows, can do all of that survivors can do. So that's where I'm at thus far is why not play Legion? Your camera is also in third person for as long as you remain in the disguised state. See, that's where you're going too far. That is where you're going too far, and where you're going to incorporate a lot of glitches is the camera shifting from first person to third person as well. Imagine you're in the middle of turning into humanity and somebody stuns you or something like that, or you're doing that standing on the other side of a pallet, and while you're in mid animation, a survivor comes in and stuns you, and your camera gets stuck halfway. Or something other crazy type situation has. Like, there's going to be a lot of glitches that's associated with that. Two, you're also breaking a core aspect of the game. And three, unless you are trying to essentially cheat and look around the entire map while playing the fool, I don't see any reason for the killer to need a third person camera. If you're walking around in first person, survivor, running around, vaulting, doing everything like that, and you find a survivor, why do you need third person camera? Because you're obviously going to attack that specific survivor. One thing I would like to see that probably isn't part of your particular killer's lore is I would like to see. God dang, I should not do VO and then look at a screen. I'm having trouble reading, is what it is. My eyes aren't focusing, is why I keep stumbling and things like that. I'm trying to read and talk at the same time. But another thing I would like to see is like a delayed hit or a poison type of effect. If you ever played like the old Assassin's Creed online and things like that with the poison and all of that, any of the Ezio games, where you could walk by somebody, touch them, and then moments later they would die. Have something sort of like that, except for it's hooked to something. Like if you, for example, excuse me, with an add-on, this is gonna be its buff form. If you spend 10 or more seconds doing cooperative actions with another survivor, or more, one or more survivors, each survivor that was part of that takes a state of damage. So one, it would make survivors think twice about trusting other survivors on doing gens with them, which I mean can be detrimental if it's a gen rush type strategy. They're going to be at separate gens anyway. But instead of running and chasing a particular survivor all the way around the map to get that hit, and then running with them again to get that second hit, or if you transform and find an injured survivor and heal them, it'll only take you 10 seconds to down them as opposed to transforming back, which takes 3 seconds. Running them, doing the loops and all of that, and doing all of that craziness. You could essentially stay disguised and deal damage. And you can do add-ons either way. You can make it to where they take that damage, but you automatically transform. So there's 3 seconds after, they take that damage to hit them. Or you can go the opposite way and make it to where you stay hidden, but it takes longer for you to get this effect. And then the negatives, can be anything. It can be you can't hit a survivor while you're transformed or something else crazy. Who knows? One of the inherent things to tell, and survivors are going to do this because this is the first thing that I kept in mind. If you have like a mimic type of killer, is they're going to, well, if their survivor has a flashlight, they're going to shine a flashlight in your face as you're a survivor, and that's going to be a check to see if you're real or not. If they get killer blind, they're going to know that you are fake as shit and they need to GTFO. If they don't have that and they're carrying any other type of item, they're going to drop the item on the ground and point at it. And if you don't pick that goddamn item up, they're going to fucking either pick their shit up and they're going to fucking leave, or they're going to know that you're you and they're going to GTFO, starting a chase. And all that time you spent trying to go undercover, they've got time on that particular gen. So your character or killer will probably benefit for having some sort of perk to slow down gen speed. But you can make it unique by using the properties of your particular killer. I don't think that you need the third person camera, because I mean, that's kind of a little strong for being in the disguise state. It hasn't said anything thus far whether or not you can damage survivors or interact with survivors in any way while in your particular disguise. So I'm kind of waiting to see whether or not you can hit a survivor while in this form before I veto other things or not. Which is something that's very relevant that a lot of people are going to ask very early about this, that you should have explained. Kind of that chronological order thing. You said that you reduced your speed to 100%, but you are disguised as a survivor. Can you hit a survivor? Or are you just stuck to the survivor set of moves? And out of those questions, like I said, if you had a fact at the end that was readily available, I can just save my spot, look down, and look at the first fact, the frequently asked questions there. Or you can post it in the main here, or you can put it in, the secondary data, things like that, and just say that it's explained, down below. There's a lot of ways you can incorporate it to where, there's good, where you explain it as soon as you talk about it. There's medium, you explain it right nearby in the next, set of things about this. Or you can do it at least they said it early, and put it, right afterwards in the bottom in the frequently asked questions and things like that you're probably going to get. As of now, I'm gonna say no to the third person camera. I mean, if you can't attack survivors while you're in that state, then it's kind of irrelevant whether or not you have a third person camera, but I mean, it's irrelevant altogether anyway, because you're gonna be pushing that survivor instead. But I think that's kind of sort of part of the charm of the killer. A survivor going to another survivor, know they both have third person camera. So a survivor on one side of the generator, another survivor would work on the opposite side of the generator naturally because they can see each other. If the killer comes, the killer's going to want to work on the long side of the generator so he can see whether or not that survivor stays there if they decide to dip. So, I mean, that sort of, do you take the risk and go to the end, or do you just kind of go to the other side and work on said generator? So, that's kind of one of the unique things that can happen. And then survivors can have, opposite gen tech. And it's a way for survivors to counter you if you don't have big balls as a killer. And it's a unique weakness that shouldn't be covered up because, as you know, it's survivors using their brains. That's what people like when you're playing Survivor, is to use these different techs and to feel like you're smarter than the killer and all of that because they made a mistake and you got to one up on them. Same with killer. If the killer works on the other side and gets that 10-second pop or whatever the hell else this killer has power going forward, bam, you get that smile on your face. I got you, bitch, and then you go after them. Let's see. Every 30 seconds while within this state, alter your form to a different survivor within the trial. that that is so bad. I mean, I understand you're trying to incorporate a weakness into your killer, but trust me, your killer already has weaknesses, like glaring weaknesses already. You don't need to design something that's weak for the killer. I get kind of frustrated when there's a glaring weakness and people try to cover it up with something OP and they go through and cover every weakness they can think about a killer. But you shouldn't be designing your killer weaknesses. If your killer is a stealth killer, keep in mind that you're going to be moving at 4 meters per second. If you transform outside of the 32-meter tear radius, because you never gave me a tear radius, so I'm going to assume it's a regular tear radius, it's going to take you 8 seconds of that 30 seconds plus to even get to that survivor. So you're down to 22 seconds as you're even arriving at the survivor. And if you're doing the fake gen stuff and all of that, you're gonna be, I don't know what the hell you're gonna do in that situation, honestly. You might as well just transform back and go into a chase. But even doing it like that, that survivor's going to get a 3-second head start on you. So I guess transforming back, you might want to make an add-on that's like Sadico's, where you get the undetected status effect for a little bit, or something like that. But then you have to think about the noise your killer makes when it's transforming and losing his humanity and all of that. So it's going to be a very big balancing game and things like that that you're going to have to consider. But I don't think that you should tell or change into random survivors every 30 seconds. Because if you are a different survivor and don't happen to walk up on a survivor that you're going after as the same person, you have a 1 in 3 chance of transforming into that particular survivor. And if that survivor sees that, hey, I'm working on a generator with myself, guess what? They are going to GTFO very quickly. So I don't think that you should ever have to change your state. I do believe that you should either have to do it like Goose Goose Duck or Among Us, where you have to sample a survivor, and once you sample a survivor, aka hit them or use some sort of special attack or something on them, then you are able to freely transform into them whenever you want. And that's a very easy system to incorporate. Hmm. And then after, you've hit or hooked or whatever the behavior decides or you decide to do, if they pick this up or if you decide to go back to this to get those, then boom, there you go. For the rest of the game, you can be whatever survivor you want, or if you never run across a particular survivor, you'll never be able to mimic them. Survive with friends are going to get a boost in this because, I mean, they can say, hey, I went down, watch out for me. And they'll know that if they see a particular survivor, they're safe. But I mean, if it is a blatant hit to sample type thing, anybody that's been injured, they know they can be them anywhere. So it could go either way. Mm. Also, just on the slight chance that somebody from behavior manages to sneak by and look at this particular review, there is something that I would like to ask you guys to incorporate. It can be a meme perk, it can be a gag perk, it could be something, that doesn't really matter. I would love a perk that is anti survive with friends, but hear me out. And the way that it's the number of tokens that you start with are amped by the number of people that are in a survive with friends party. So if two people are playing SWF in your lobby, you'll start with 2 tokens. Or if it's a 4 person, SWF, you'll start with 4 tokens. It can be a meme, it could be something dumb or anything like that, but I think it would be just unique to know at the beginning of a game whether or not you are going up against the survive with friends and how many there are part of that. Because I would love to say that you can just look at, when people join the game and all of that to see when who's together or not. But the servers have a way of making everybody join at the same time, essentially. So you never really know whether or not you're up against the survive with friends or not. They keep it very random when things are joining. And I would just love it to, however many people that are in a survive with friends, how many tokens you get. If it's 2 people in one survive with friends party and 2 people with another survive with friends party, you can either make it 4 tokens. You mean you can keep it at 2 tokens since it only works debates one, or you can split the middle and make it 3 tokens and make it, pseudo obvious. The perk itself, like I said, can be a meme perk or something like that. Or even make it, just a special ability of a killer that adds in, like, I don't know, the birthday blues killer. You get tokens passively by the amount of people that are in a survive with friends. However many of that a cake spawns, and however many slices of cake are relative to the same amount of tokens or something. And then give it a passive to where the birthday blues killer, if he goes to the middle of the map or the basement and eats a cake, he gets 20 seconds of 10% increased speed or something stupid. I don't know. Just something off the wall, It ain't gotta be anything useful to the game. Just let it have a passive that that can be used accordingly. You know what I'm saying? But that's just the personal favor that when I'm playing a Ghosty Boy or something like that. It'd just be interesting to know, because if I start a match and I get 4 tokens, I know, all right, I need to change the way I'm gonna play this. Versus I get no tokens and I'm like, okay, nobody's survivor friends are playing together. I can treat this like a regular match. Or I get two and I'm like, all right, two of them know each other. I would love for it just to be a core mechanic of the game because I mean they have the advantage of communication in SWF. I think it's only fair if there's a symbol above their head. Like you already tell us if they're console or not. Well, I can't say console or not. If they're on different, a PC's not a console. If they're playing the game on something different than what you're playing the game on, you already tell us that. It'd be nice to have the information that pops up that just says SWF would be fine in a lobby that lets you know that at least one or more of these people, or well, I guess it'd be two or more of these people are playing in an SWF. You know what I'm saying? Just some sort of identifier so I can pick, relative perks to kind of even that playing field. But I mean, that's just me. I mean, I could go into another thing of the forum and I could, feed. Well, I might make a suggestion. It's not anything relevant. It's not something that would take a long amount of time to do or incorporate, but it would be nice just to know. Actually, let me do a search and make sure that it's not already incorporated. Dbd, how do I know if I'm facing a SWF? The only real way is to check friends list on Steam and pregame lobby. In red ranks for the past 32 games in a row, there has been a minimum of 2. So it's like, yes, you can DPIP Dead by Daylight. Very rare, but I mean, if you have a shit game or if you get tunneled out at the beginning, you can DPIP. They do have the safety pip, so as long as you contribute a decent amount, you're safe. I mean, it does go up and get harder the further up the ranks you go, or further down the ranks you go, depending on how you want to view that. All right. Bum, 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 bum. Along with being disguised, you can make yourself seem to be more useful by pretending to interact with anything on the map. Now, as we sit from here to here, keep in mind that this is the same power as one of the killers on, what was it called? Prop Night, I think was the name of the game. Prop Night. So just keep in mind that you want to kind of get away from other games killers and perks and things like that. You want to keep it unique. Most mimics aren't able to make perfect copies. They always do something that, is wrong as well. So I don't think it should be a one-to-one copy, but it should be similar. There should be something that's off about that survivor. That it's not necessarily, spottable from a long distance, but, like, I don't know, once every 20, or you said 30 seconds, once every 30 seconds, instead of just transforming into another survivor, whether you're near a survivor or not, your eyes will maybe flash red for a second or something like that. Something that'll give it off that if a survivor is looking at you, shows, hey, I'm a killer. They can see and kind of get alerted by. And not just getting clapped. Now, I'm going to say hold off on that particular statement because I haven't read the rest of this to see where all of this is particularly going. Certain actions will grant different effects until your targets look beyond the veil of trickery. This won't be readable in your power description, but it'll cause everything to appear affected as if it was an actual survivor. This includes faking regression particles by tapping the gin, sabotaging a hook, throwing down a pallet, cleansing a totem, exit gates, etc. Exit gates are a special case considering open the gate will trigger a fake endgame collapse. Yes, but what if you're trying to set up that nasty ass Blood Warden play because you have no ad and you're, the guy that's at the exit gate sitting there as the mimic, acting like you're 99%ing the particular exit gate and all of that. Instead of being able to hop off the exit gate, transform, use that no ad speed or all of that, or walk around the corner or something like that and catch them off guard, down them, open the exit gate, hook them to activate Blood Warden or something along that line. You trigger a fake endgame collapse, which is going to force survivors to the exit gates. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it prevents you from being able, so you're going to need an add-on that actually allows you to do these things if you're going to make it to where, all of that. I don't agree with the ability to make a fake end game collapse because the end game collapse is the end game collapse. It's a core mechanic of the game. It's already two core mechanics of the games you've tried to change. Let's see. And make the gate appear to be open. All of these can be revealed to be fake by the survivor if the survivor is within 4 meters of the mirage. Chests are exempt from this since they do not progress the objective in any way. I think chests should be added with this because it's something that's openable. If you're going to have the exit gate able to be open, you should make chest appear open and empty until a survivor walks up to it. Why cut out and make your power weaker and not include everything that could possibly be, there? Like, for example, the unique activation of walking up to your hex totem. You walk up to it, you act like you break it and all of that. A fake sound goes. The hex, I guess, would act like it's gone or whatever, but the effects would still persist. Or they would hear the bang and they would assume that, if there's ruin still active, I mean, it'd obviously stay active. But that's a way, well, no, it's not really a good way of doing that either. I guess they would assume that it was Hex Undying. But I mean, if they see that something blew up over there, maybe they won't check over there. I don't know. Um, Along with fetching items, you can carry an item in your left hand. No, no, you cannot. Killers are not able to carry anything except for their specific equipment that is deemed by the entity. You have yet to see any other killer in the game pick up any type of item. That would make no sense if the killer could just walk over the chest. Or better yet, if they were running Franklin's, knock whatever it is out of the survivor's hand, be it key or something else, and then pick that shit up as soon as they knock it out of that survivor's hand. That item's gone, and now unable to be used ever. Charges can be wasted by the survivor if the item is in their hand, and then you can just use the charges. So you would literally just pair this with Franklin's, hit the item out of their hand, pick it up, and then waste the charges. What kind of bullshit is that? Too long, didn't read. It's always good to have those. Killer becomes survivor simulator. um, well, that should have been a little bit longer, even though it's a TLDR. Because you saying Killer becomes Survivor Simulator makes you think it's like Friday the 13th, where the counselors can kill Jason. That's what I think of when I see this. The hunter becomes the hunted, but that's not necessarily true. The TLDR would be mimic mechanic, and people would understand. Oh, you're trying to, become a survivor, and they would look at that more than saying Killer becomes Survivor Simulator. But that's close. Anyway, also, yes, I know that SWFs can call it out. Yes, yes, they can call it out. However, you're able to transform in between them regardless. Unless it's a 3 or 4 person SWF, you really don't have to worry about that anyway. Because they're on just about the same level when it comes to something like that. If you're that worried, then probably run Dark Devotion on them. You shouldn't even need to run that. Like I said, mimics are inherently not perfect in what they do. That's the whole lore of any type of mimic type thing. They have something that's distinctly wrong with them. You have Dark Souls, you might see the chain being, curled, and some are bloody, things like that. Other games, the mimic's teeth are there. Other game, the mimic breathes. Other game, the mimic itself moves ever so slightly. Other games, external or superficial things like moles and things like that don't get copied over. That's the whole point of a mimic, is it's close, but it's not perfect. So you're able to tell that there is an imposter among us, or amongst you. Though you get to fake actions and it looks real to everyone until they get close. Only the survivors who are close enough can see its revealed state, when the rest remain blind to the truth. Now, reading all of this, again, Prop Knight, or whatever the hell, I think it was Prop Knight, is the name of the game, as a character that is the mimic that runs around. He has the ability to transform into other survivors. He also has the ability to, he like pings generators, which if you're on a generator, it makes the generator explode. You can also turn into different props and jump around like I'm just going to say survivors can do in that particular game as well. Also, something else to point out is that you have no perks. No perks at all. I mean, I understand you're trying to introduce this, but you've basically listed out a very pseudo, like killer. Where's the build that you see, him doing? Things like that. There's no build, dog. All right, we're coming around an hour. I've spent a lot of time, I know, going over that. I'm actually going to cut this short today, and I'm going to play a little bit of Rocket League. I was going to do something special today, involving Rocket League, but I decided not to. And as promised, anybody watching my content now knows the information that a lot of people have wanted to know. So, from this point on, before I restart the stream and do all of that other stuff and get Twitch in on this, anybody that asks me anything about my rank or anything else about my main account, I will not answer anything about. You can call me a fraud, you can call me a cheapskate, you can call me whatever you want. Actually, let me get Twitch in on this first. Hang on, let me pick up Rocket League. Start streaming that.